My earliest recollection of a hammer is my dad telling me not to play with it. When I was young, I would see my father bring his tools home after work and use them around the house on the weekends. One of the most fascinating tools was the hammer. The powerful swing as my dad drove nails into lumber, the distinct rhythmic pounding sound it made, the prominent location he kept it on his tool belt, like a gun in a holster. These early recollections fed my interest of the hammer. Often I would come greet my father when he got home, as he was unloading his tools into the garage, or go find him in the backyard on the weekends when he was working on the house. I would hand him nails and screws, help clean up, and pass him his tools as he needed them. Eventually I would give way to my urge to play with the tools and begin banging the hammer against a piece of wood or doing something else I wasn't supposed to be doing. My father would bark at me, "Put that down, it's not a toy." The early memories I have seeing my dad with his tools are probably very similar to the memories my father has of my grandpa, and also probably similar to the memories my grandpa had of his father. Like his father and grandfather, my dad was a carpenter. He was the third generation of carpenters in my family. As carpenters, swinging a hammer was how my family earned a living. In our family, a hammer was important as a fisherman's net or a hunter's rifle. Without the tools of our trade, my father wouldn't be able to put food on the table. My great-grandfather taught my grandpa how to use the tools of the trade when he was young, just as my grandpa taught my father and two uncles. Eventually, all three of my grandfather's children would use the skills they learned while swinging a hammer with them during the summer in their own careers. Whether it be directly like my father, by following in my grandpa's footsteps and becoming a carpenter, or indirectly like my uncle who became an architect, or my other uncle who became a woodshop teacher. Whatever career my dad and uncles chose, they carried those experiences and lessons they learned while swinging a hammer with my grandpa with them. As I grew up, my dad would let me help him more and more. Instead of just handing him tools, I was slowly being allowed to use them. The summer after my freshman year of high school, my dad let me come to work for him so I could save for a car. Just like my father, I was going to earn my first car by swinging a hammer. Before my first day, my dad took me down to the garage to give me some tools to use for my new job. He gave me an old leather set of tool bags along with a bunch of miscellaneous old tools to put in them. But among those old tools was something special, my first hammer. Not just any hammer though, his old hammer. The same hammer I wanted so badly when I was a child. It was more than just a hammer to me though, it was a sort of rite of passage. For 4 years I spent the summers working with my dad. It was hard work, it was hot and strenuous, and there were many times I wanted to quit. My dad would never let me quit though. He would tell me I can't quit just because something is hard, and that I made a commitment and he needed my help. As much as he taught me about building, he taught me about life, about hard work, and about being an adult. Between swinging hammers, he'd share stories and we'd crack jokes. As miserable as it was sometimes, some of my best memories are of those summers spent working for my dad. Eventually, when I got older, I left my dad's company to go work in a new trade. I was trading in my framing hammer for a sheet metal hammer. My new hammer was a symbol of my new chapter in my life. After 3 generations of carpenters, I was taking a different path. Though there were many similarities, there were just as many differences. Instead of wood, I was building with metal. Instead of a few guys working on someone's house, it was hundreds of guys working on a high-rise. Even though the work was different and my hammer was different, those lessons and skills my dad taught me were still true as ever. While it hasn't been easy, I've been able to find some success in my new trade over the last few years. I know I never could have done it if it wasn't for those summers spent swinging a hammer working for my dad. Working with my hands is all I've ever known. It's all I've ever done, and it's what 3 generations before me did. The older I get, the more interested I become in things besides construction. I feel my heart isn't in it anymore. I've become fascinated with business and finance. My passion now is to learn to build a strong business instead of a strong building. As much as I appreciate what those skills have brought me and how much I cherish the memories of working with my dad or my first day in sheet metal, I am finally ready to put my hammer down.